Hello folks and welcome. Zorin OS, the Xfce desktop. I'm going to be talking about something that I believe that every Zorin user should know, whether you're a seasoned user or a new user. I'm going to talk about several things that interact with your desktop, such as your keyboard and mouse and scroll wheel on your computer mouse. How to do a lot of different functions. So in either case, folks, welcome. So you can see the particulars. I'm using NeoFetch for information, and Bob is our fictitious user for today. So Zorin OS 16.2 Xfce desktop. You can see what I'm filming in today. So I'm filming in 1080. Now, if you are watching this on a mobile device, I highly encourage that you click on that gear symbol on your player and switch the screen resolution from 460 to something better. Also, the same goes with your computer users. A lot of times your YouTube players will switch to 460. I film exclusively in 1080 and 4K. And for folks that have, high resolution monitors, they probably appreciate that. You can also watch my videos also on your big screen TVs. If you have a smart TV with the YouTube app, just take a look at the name of my channel. Now, with that said, all of my videos are over 2 minutes on my new YouTube channel. However, they all have timelines and chapters, and I do encourage that you read the About section on my YouTube site and also investigate the Community tab for keyword searches on my 100+ videos, because I have a lot of different subject matter, and all my videos are key index searchable. So welcome, folks. So I'm going to close down this system information. Again, the text is going to be smaller from now on, but that's why I was recommending that you investigate that gearbox on your player. Now, today I'm going to talk about something that I think most users should know. Now, whether you're a seasoned user of Zorin or a brand new user, I'm going to talk about a lot of things, how it interacts with your keyboard and mouse and scroll wheel on your computer mouse. My computer mouse is a standard USB-based computer mouse with a scroll wheel on it, just to let you know. So let's talk about the basic keyboard function first. I also have a keyboard that has a start key on it. Kind of looks like a Windows key, and it does that. It kind of opens up the Zorin menu. No big deal though. That's probably the simplest thing I can make mention of today. Now I'm going to depress the Alt and the F2 key to give you that dialog box application finder. That would be similar to looking for apps in here, right? All right, so Alt F2. And you can type in what you're looking for. So if I was wanting to know about that calculator, I'd just launch it. A little better method is actually Alt F3. Also opens up this box, but it looks a little bit nicer. Same deal, Cal. I click on that and launch that. All right, so with that open, a lot of people close Windows. This is a window. This is an application, but this is still kind of like a window. Same thing goes with web browsers and applications that are open. They all have this close button in the corner. Now, instead of using that button, I'm going to use a keyboard command to close this box and anything else like a web browser, a file manager, or even an application. And this is an application. So I'm going to get my mouse pointer out of the way and use Alt F4 to close that. Now I'm going to open up a web browser. Doesn't matter what web page I'm on. I'm going to use Alt F4 to close it. Then I'm going to walk over to the Zorin menu and open up a card game. It just happens to be convenient. And I'll put it in the center. Alt F4 after I get done playing. I'll open up my file manager, Thunar. Bob is our user for today. Alt F4 to close. Now everything is closed. Now I'm going to press Alt F4 one more time. And what do I get? I get a logout, restart, shutdown, suspend, and switch user box. One more time. Alt F4 with nothing open. You may want to investigate that on your own also. Now I'm going to show you some interesting functions you can do with your mouse and your scroll wheel and your keyboard. How it interacts with your web browser and your file manager, for instance, just to give you some examples. All right, so I'm going to pick on DistroWatch only for a couple of reasons, because I'm going to show the Zorin distribution at the same time. So we're going to click that. And I'm not going to resize the window at all. I'm going to leave the text just like it is, 150%. Or should I just go back to 100? Now, how did I do it that quickly? All right, one more time on the computer mouse. It's a standard USB-based computer mouse, a cheap one at that, with a scroll wheel on it. And I have my keyboard left hand sitting on the control key, or next to the control key. When I depress the control key down and hold it while using my computer mouse scroll wheel, I can scroll up and down to resize. This is 30%, you can see it, and it's probably not legible at all on your screen. Then I'm going to blow this up to 500%. I'm still holding the control key on my keyboard down while using my computer mouse scroll wheel to scroll with. This comes in handy for resizing the innards of this web page. Once I release the control key, I can scroll normally. Same thing as grabbing a hold of that little scroll bar. Now I'll click number 12. Zorin also comes in a GNOME desktop. Just wanted to point that out to some of you folks. Is that big enough for you? I'll blow this up some more. They're out of the country of Ireland, if you didn't know. All right, so anyways, resizing information or innards on your web browser. There's one more thing that I can do with this thing that you may not be aware of. So let's say I wanted to focus in on this thing, but really quickly without resizing everything. Hold down your Alt key on your keyboard and using your computer mouse scroll wheel. But before you do anything, point to the area that you want to actually zoom in on first. What I mean by that is, I'm going to pick this guy's hairs over here. I know you probably can't see this, but this is a guy's arm. So I'm going to point to that little drop right there with my mouse. Just point at it. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and grabbing a hold of that scroll wheel on my computer mouse and scroll in on that little drop. And you can see it's almost pixelated. And I'm going to scroll back out using my computer mouse while still holding that Alt key. Now I'm going to release the Alt key and move over to here and do the same thing. Scroll in. Now I'm going to release the Alt key and walk around with my mouse. And this is a highly zoomed in area. A lot of people don't know how to recover from this, so don't panic. Just depress and hold down your Alt key and then scroll backwards on your computer mouse where you can see the panel bar reappear. Then release the Alt key when you see the panel bar. Now you're back to normal, 100% zoom factor. You noticed I wasn't zooming the innards. I was zooming everything around the innards. So if I was doing his little fingernail here, I'm going to point to it and I'm going to hold the Alt key down while zooming in on the fingernail. That's a little too much there. I'm still holding the Alt key. Now I'm going to release the Alt key. And then I'm going to drag the box in the center. Then I'm going to point at that word live medium. Depress the Alt key and scroll back in. That's a little too much. Now I'm going to stop it right there for a second. You notice there's no panel bar. I'm going to release the Alt key and it's going to float around in there as I move my mouse around. Now I'm going to depress the Alt key again and hold it. Scroll backwards until I see that panel bar and I'm going to release the Alt key. Now I'm going to close this, or should I say, let's use Alt F4. Alt F4 it is. Now let's open up the file manager. Thunar. Our user for today is Bob. So Bob has lots of icons. He's got lots of folders. Some people call them directories. So Bob has some pictures, or wallpapers in some cases. I want to see a bigger picture of this thing without going to the old-fashioned way of clicking here. Now, I want you to notice that the zoom in, out, and normal size has control something on it. This one says control plus plus, control plus negative, control plus 0, for instance. Well, the key is control. Hold down the control key and hit the plus key to make this bigger. I'm going to substitute that plus, though, with the scroll wheel on my computer mouse. Hold down the control key, scroll up and down with your scroll wheel on your computer mouse to resize the innards. Nothing over here. just the icons. Once I get it to the size I want, I release the control key and they'll remain in this size. This does come in handy if you have a scroll bar over here. Once you get them in this size here, I release the control key and they'll remain in this size now. And now I can pick a different wallpaper, for instance. Well, you can do that at any time. I'm just pointing out that there's a scroll bar here. Now I'm going to show you something nifty you can do with that Alt key. Now, do you see the ear of this chess piece? I know this is a weird piece of wallpaper, and I forget where I got this thing years ago. But there's a chess piece here that has looks like a horse's head with an ear on it. I'm going to take my mouse pointer and point it at the corner, and then I'm going to depress the Alt key and using my computer mouse scroll wheel to zoom in on that. Then I want to actually release the Alt key and kind of zoom around in there. Okay, and then I'm going to depress the Alt key again and zoom in some more. Now this has become excessive, obviously. And now I'm going to still hold the control key and zoom back out to get a panel bar. Once I do that, it's back at 100%. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this piece over here, except I'm going to get kind of in between this area here, just by pointing at it. Hold down the Alt key and zoom in. And I'm going to release the Alt key and then kind of float around in here. Okay, float around in here. Not really wanting to click on anything, but I just wanted to see it's drawing a box at the same time. But more importantly, I'm clicking in here, getting you dizzy, I'm sure. I'm going to re-depress the Alt key so I can get back to normal and scroll back the other way on my computer mouse scroll wheel. Maybe some interesting features for called instant zoom. Now there are some things that don't work in this factor. If I open the calendar, for instance, this takes over and my Alt key and my scroll wheel only changes the months. It doesn't change the size, as I pointed out earlier. Okay, right now it's not doing anything unless I'm inside the box, scrolling through the months. So if I click back out of here and then point my mouse at that tree section and then hit the Alt key again and then use the computer mouse to scroll back in, then I can do that. Does that make sense so far? Hopefully. All right. So I'm going to go back in here now and use my control key this time and resize the innards. And then this does come in handy if you're using two window file transfers. Example of that would be new window. And I got a USB stick sitting here. These are independently resized. So I'm going to click in this box first to resize the innards, and click in this box here to resize the innards. So let's go to documents on this section, make them sort of large or kind of in between, and then walk over to here. I'll open up this junk folder and resize these. And if I already have a file that's called the same thing, what's it going to do if I do that? It's going to complain, right? And if I don't have another file that doesn't have the same name on it, like that text, it will transfer it. In other words, make a copy from here to here. If you meant to cut it, then of course use the cut command. But anyways, just wanted to let you see that the windows are independently resized. Can I still use the Alt key to zoom in? Yes, you can. So point to the area that you want to zoom in on. So I'm going to point to this trees over here and depress the Alt key while still scrolling in to see a bigger version of those. Well, they're fuzzed out now, the trees. Okay, I'm going to release the Alt key and I can still swirl around in here. To get it back to normal, I need to depress that Alt key and scroll back the other way to get a panel bar and basically the icons. I'm sorry, the windows to normal 100% size. So you can do a lot of things between that control key and the Alt key. So one more recap, we have the start button or the Windows key to open up that menu. We have Alt F2, Alt F3, and then Alt F4 will close that box in any other window. And Alt F4 all by itself will give you that dialog box. Combinations on your web browser. You can use, I'm just going to put in test, just so I can get any searches. So holding down the control key and using my computer mouse scroll wheel will scroll in the innards. And if I use the Alt key, I need to point to a region I want to actually zoom in on, like let's say the exam part. Hold down the Alt key, and I use the computer mouse scroll wheel to go back in here. And once I release the Alt key, you can swirl around in here a little bit, and then depress the Alt key again to back out of it, to get back to 100%, or where you can see the panel bar again. And now you can grab your window and do whatever you want to with it. And don't forget, it normally when you're not in 100% on this web browser, it'll tell you that. Not all web browsers will do this, by the way. And also, you notice that it was outside the box, outside the innards, while trying to perform that scrolling action. I'm holding down the control key while scrolling up here on the bar. Doesn't work. You have to be inside the area. The other thing a lot of people don't know is, you see this right here? You can double click on an imaginary line up here. This should work for most web browsers and file managers. I'm going to double click right next to the, well, where it says home here. And double click again to resize that. And what's the command for closing this whole box? Alt F4. What's the command if I do Alt F4 again? That's my log out, restart, shutdown, suspend, and switch user dialog box. I'm going to hit escape. And on that note, folks, thanks for watching.